And they look at it as this big project, but they don't break it down and say, what is the first step? And so if you look at running a marathon or something, it's a massive undertaking, but people are like, oh, they put that mental barrier. Just take that first step. If you're writing a book, it starts with that first word. If you're producing a movie, it starts with that first idea, storyboarding it. Just take that first step.
Hello and welcome to the Pursuit Podcast, where we bring stories from small business owners and entrepreneurs that have decided to quit their jobs and pursue their passion in life. I'm your host, Ben Roberts, entrepreneur and owner of RW Medias. So let's jump in. So welcome everybody to the Pursuit Podcast. I'm your host, Benjamin Roberts, and joining me in the podcast studio today is Matthew Byron. Matthew Byron is a serial entrepreneur, a real estate mogul, accomplished author, and seasoned sailor. This is going to be an exciting one, so definitely tune in. Matt Byron, welcome to the podcast studio. How are you doing today?
Yes, Ben, it's great to be here. Really an honor. I appreciate that really warm introduction. I'm very excited to talk about my business ventures and to be on your show. So it's really an honor to be here today. Thank you for having me.
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you for joining us. And, obviously with the big thing with this podcast is we want to hear your story, who you are, all about it. We celebrate entrepreneurs and the entrepreneurial lifestyle, and you seem to be the epitome of that. So you've done a ton of different business ventures over the years, and a lot of accomplishments, a lot of not accomplishments, a lot of failures and things like that. But that's kind of the way that it goes, right? So take us through some of those journeys.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing is with most entrepreneurs out there, it really is a journey. There's going to be ups and downs. I think when you look at society out there are people who want that classic 9-to-5, that stable lifestyle. But then there are also entrepreneurs who look at the 9-to-5, that stability as being boring. And so for me as an entrepreneur, I love the roller coaster, the ups and the downs, and just having control of one's fate. I think it's a fun ride. So, yeah.
Awesome. And I know you've done some wild things. When I very first met you, now this was over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
One of the big things that you had done is you had sailed or attempted to sail around the world. And then you wrote a book about it. So tell us about that adventure and that journey.
Yeah. So it grew kind of organically, that whole experience of sailing and writing the book. They dovetailed well naturally together. But basically, they give you a little context in it. I had this idea of sailing. I wanted to go sailing so badly, but I didn't have much money, honestly, at the time. But I told all my friends and family, hey, I want to go sailing. And after doing that enough, I ran into a girl whose friend was in the Caribbean. They were on a sailboat. The third guy in their boat had, for various personal reasons, decided he could not sail back from the Caribbean to Maine. So she made the introduction. I talked to these guys on Skype for like an hour and a half. We teed it off, just great chemistry, great energy, and that's the key. Is if you're on a boat with a group of people, you've got to be on the same frequency for energy. So after that conversation, I bought a one-way ticket to St. Martin. I flew down from the Caribbean to St. Martin. And I spent 5 weeks on boat with them. It's an outstanding experience. And then from that experience, I used that as a story in my motivational book, because it made me realize that when you've got a goal, you've got to tell your friends and family, hey, I've got this goal, I've got this dream of mine. You've got to shout it from the rooftops. You can't develop a great dream of yours and keep it in secret the whole time, because any great venture, if you're building pyramids or if you're building a giant bridge, it requires a team of people. So that's why it's so important when you have a great goal to tell your friends and family, hey, I've got this goal, and then get introduced to the right people who've got the right resources or connections or experience who can help you with that goal. So I think that lesson can be applied to anything in business.
No, and that's a great point, because a lot of times we think that, entrepreneurs are on their own, right? They do their own thing. They work their own way. They blaze their own path, so to speak. And in a lot of regards, they do. But, there's a big team of people behind you. And it's good to have accountability to that team to help you reach those goals. Because at the end of the day, as much of the vision that you have, in order to put it in place, it's going to take a team of people, very talented people.
Yes. A team of people is always key. I think that's a classic mistake a lot of entrepreneurs make, is that they want to go it alone. They want to be a lone wolf, but that does not work. In any venture, if it's a complex venture, you've got to bring in the experts. You've got to bring people who have 10 or 20 years of experience, because you can't capture that same level of experience in minutes or hours of studying. So by leveraging a team of experts, we can gain hundreds of years of experience, professionalism, and bring that to the table. Yeah.
That's awesome. And now, You've been in a lot of different ventures.
Yes.
One of them, real estate.
Yeah, sure.
Now, tell us about your real estate journey.
Yeah, so I got into real estate around right after college. I got into real estate. I became a mortgage broker, and this is around 2003, 2004, around that time. And I was a mortgage broker. I did retail mortgage lending. I then did wholesale lending and private money lending. So I've got a great education in mortgage finance. And it's just, I feel like for anyone going to real estate, it's really important to understand the leverage in mortgages, to understand, balloon notes versus ARMs versus, fixed rate mortgages. There are all these different variables, understand the loan to value. And for me, that workplace experience is just a great base for education in real estate. Yeah.
Yeah. And there always seems to be something about real estate that attracts big name entrepreneurs. People from Grant Cardone to Robert Kiyosaki.
Oh yeah, of course.
What do you think it is about real estate that draws people into it?
I think Grant Cardone is great at articulating this, is that in real estate, you're buying a business. So if you're buying an apartment building, you're looking at the cash flow for that apartment building for the next 30 years. And a lot of entrepreneurs, hey, they want to start a pizzeria or a restaurant or something, or some kind of business. And the long-term cash flow is very uncertain. That's why it's really hard for a lot of entrepreneurs to get business loans. It's really hard. But to get a real estate loan is very easy. The government wants people to have real estate loans. The government has a great program called the FHA program. And under that program, you can buy your first house for 3.5% down, a 1 to 4 unit property. That's incredible leverage. So yes, I think Grant Cardone is a great advocate for buying real estate as a business. Kiyosaki also, he's all about buying properties for residual income. Yeah, it's just a classic business. It's very easy, I think, for anyone to do well in real estate. It doesn't require a brilliant mind. It's just an easy thing to do.
Awesome. And so let's switch gears a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Because I know you've done a lot of different ventures. What would you say is the wildest, most unexpected venture that you ever found yourself on?
The wildest, most exciting venture. I think, let's see here. Gosh, wildest, most exciting venture. I think creating a cryptocurrency is that, as I look back on that now, I had to pause there for a second to really think about this. But for me, a couple of, 2 years ago, I launched a cryptocurrency called Emerald Rockets. And I think I was at the right place, the right time. Cryptocurrency had this giant spike, and I rode up that spike and had a lot of fun. And so it's for me, it's fun to be on these new frontiers at the moment that they're launching. Like this week, this month, AI is the big thing, and 2 years ago, cryptocurrency was the big thing, and I enjoy that ride. Being in the forefront of a new technology.
Okay, so that's pretty cool. Creating your own cryptocurrency, and not everybody can say they have created and launched an entire cryptocurrency. So you seem like technology is your go-to. You kind of follow technology, and that's where you find a lot of business opportunities?
I think the truth for me is that I follow my passions, and candidly, I'm probably somebody who has like ADD. I jump around my different ideas. I'm always jumping on to the next shiny object, right? Lately, it's been technology, and I've run with that. And I think the key thing there being that when a person is passionate about something, then when I say passion, I mean, I think a good test is you're going to sleep, you're thinking about the idea, you're waking up, you're thinking about the idea. When in the morning, you're excited about the idea, you jump out of bed. If a person is hesitant to jump out of bed in the morning, then they're not passing the passion test. True passion will drive anyone more than money, I think. And so for me, when I have these ideas, I jump for them, I run with them. And then I take them as far as I can, and that's the driving force.
And what a great point. The pursuit of money can only take you so far in business if you're only showing up to get a paycheck. But if there's a true passion behind what you're doing, no matter what, that's going to drive you through. Because, owning your own business, whatever size it might be, there's always going to be ups and there's going to be downs. There's going to be
absolutely.
Good times and bad times.
Yeah.
And if you're only showing up for a paycheck and there's no passion behind it, first time you get that test of a storm that comes into the business, it may be enough to have you close shop. So that's a really great point. For a lot of entrepreneurs listening, or a lot of people that want to be entrepreneurs listening, that want to start out on their own, but they don't know what their passion is, how do you find that passion? What makes it so that you can say, I'm jumping out of bed this morning, ready to go do this?
That's a really great question, Ben. I like that. I think that's a really profound question, because I think it boils down to, what are we as humans? We are a function of the inputs. It's like, the food I eat, it makes me feel good or bad. If I eat junk food, I'm gonna feel badly. If I eat healthy food, I'm gonna feel great. Likewise, if we're feeding our minds positive inputs, if we're feeding our minds on a daily basis or monthly basis positive inputs, like the latest news on artificial intelligence or the latest news on cryptocurrency, then we're gonna have these ideas. So I intentionally, by design, anytime I'm driving around, like I always have all these different podcasts on. I'm listening to Lex Friedman, or I'm listening to My First Million, and shows like that, or Grant Cardone. And these people, these are the inputs into my mind. I'm intentionally feeding my mind. And I'm also intentionally feeding my mind foreign language tapes and all this information, but positive, great information about new frontiers. And through that, I then mix these new ideas and I come up with these, they spark new ideas for me to then pursue. So I think for any entrepreneur out there, the key to getting your next business venture, to find that new passion, is feed your mind positive inputs intentionally every single day.
Awesome. And I love that positive force, that positive energy, because it's very easy with social media and with the news to kind of fall down the trap of only consuming negative, information. So it sounds like you make a very strong concerted effort to avoid that and to just stick with positive energy to try to push through to find new goals and new opportunities.
Yes, yeah. I mean, to be clear, I think it's important to understand major headlines of world events here, but I think that the news in general can be a cancer to the mind. I think it's very negative, and I think that they feed off this. People can't. A lot of people they can't stop but look at a burning village or see a train wreck. They're excited, like, oh hey, did you hear about that latest train wreck or that latest person getting shot? It's tragic how people give all this attention to the negative events in life. And yet on the news, we don't hear the stories about, hey, the student got an A+ in school, or this guy launched a business, or this gal launched a new business after years of working really hard. We don't hear these positive stories. And so that's why I intentionally really try to feed my mind positivity, because if you bring positivity in your mind, you're going to project positivity. And that's what I love.
Well, that's awesome. And hopefully that's kind of what this podcast is trying to be about.
Yeah,
right? We want to try to bring the good, fun, positive stories, encouragement to new young entrepreneurs or even old entrepreneurs that are just ready to start out. So, so glad that you're here today to share that message with people, because it's really important for people to hear. Now, speaking of that, speaking of positive and fun things to do, one of the wilder ventures that you went on is you got into the world of stand-up comedy.
That's right. Yeah. Again, going back to passions, I had this passion for comedy, and I thought, in this day and age, you can write books and you can self-publish very easily, and also using YouTube, it's easy to get our videos out there. And this is amazing. I think a lot of people that they're kind of blasé to this great opportunity that's open to us. Any person out there can create great podcasts. Just a basic phone these days has an incredible camera, a camera far better than what you would buy for $1,000, $2,000 10 years ago. So yes, I created a comedy tour. Basically, what I did as a strategy here is that over the course of a year or two, probably I guess 2 years, I kept writing all my jokes into my cell phone. And then I would organize this outline. That outline became a book, and then the book became, I took my favorite sections, I then turned those into a series of videos. I think there's 100 plus videos now on YouTube. If you go to mattbyron.com, MATTBYRON.com. Just a little self-plug there. But yeah, no, I think for me, comedy is what I love. When I see somebody laughing, that's like the ultimate reward for me. It's very satisfying.
And now, I just think it's just such a different thing that you just don't hear about it a lot, is people doing that. It's just going from the serious business world, right, of major deals, $1 million deals, to comedy tour, doing stand-up comedy. I think it's such an interesting dichotomy. What was the big inspiration to actually pursue it? Because I know you were saying that you liked comedy and it was something that you liked to do, and you wrote down your jokes and things. But what was it that was like, what, this is now a passion, something that I'm getting out of bed to do instead of trying to do other deals, or maybe even at the same time, but this was the thing that you wanted to do?
Yeah, so the comedy thing, I guess to give you a little history on that, what happened was around 2003 or so, or 4, I broke up with this girl, and I was pissed off. I was like, all this bad energy. And that's typical of a relationship. People, they have all this negative energy. And I was thinking to myself, how can I redirect this energy, right? So I was joking around with a friend. I'm like, we should produce a movie. And we're like, yeah, we should, and we didn't back down from that idea. We're like, why not produce a movie? And so this buddy of mine, he and I spent several weeks writing a script, and that script then became the basis for a movie. We found 20 actors off Craigslist, and we produced our first comedy movie. It was an hour and a half comedy, and then we rented a theater in downtown Portland, Maine, and we premiered it. So that was the very early on experience I had in comedy. And then you fast forward a couple of years to that motivational book that I wrote. I think for me, writing that first book, there was a psychological barrier. Writing a book, it sounds like a lot of people say, hey, it's a big, writing a book is a big deal. I think it's all psychological. The barrier is psychological. A book is just a series of essays that are well organized and harmonious and brought together coherently. So The point being that after writing that motivational book, I understood the process of writing books and how to do it. And I took that process and I applied it to comedy, which has always been a natural passion of mine. I love joking around. So that's how it grew organically over time.
And I just love hearing you talk about that, how you take two huge things that people have massive anxiety about. And you break them down into seemingly so simple. You talk about making a full-length feature film, an hour and a half film, like, you went for a jog. And it's just so, these are massive undertakings.
They were a lot of work,
but it seems like you do it in such an effortless way because you're looking at it as just one step at a time, a series of essays, that's like with writing the book.
Ben, that's the key, is that a lot of people, I think they're out there and they have these great ideas and they look at it as this big project, but they don't break it down and say, what is the first step? And so if you look at running a marathon or something, it's a massive undertaking, but people are like, oh, they put that mental barrier. Just take that first step. If you're writing a book, it starts with that first word. If you're producing a movie, it starts with that first idea, storyboarding it. Just take that first step. And I think that, obviously as a strategy here, if you want to succeed in any endeavor, look to those people who are best at something. So if you want to produce a movie, look at, research Steven Spielberg, spend a month reading his books, learn his style, dive into some self-study and learn from the best, and you can accelerate that learning curve. I think that ultimately, whether it's writing a book or producing a movie or cryptocurrency, at the end of the day, there's this mental muscle, this toughness that we build. I think this is true of all adults in life, is that as we've gone through challenges in life, we become tougher. So, for a 5-year-old kid who's knocked down a milk, that's a crisis. Oh no, I spilled my milk. As an adult, a building burns down, it's, hey, shrug my shoulders. There are bigger problems in the world. And so this paradigm of what's a problem changes as we grow in life. Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty profound. And now the comedy movie, that's not the only movie that you made. You also did a documentary.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Orchard Revolution, I believe it was.
Orchard Revolution.
What was that like? That I believe, if I remember correctly, that was a little bit of a bigger undertaking than the first movie. But tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, as far as being a bigger undertaking, the big difference between Orchard Revolution and the movie I'd produced, the comedy, years prior, is that Orchard Revolution, we shot in HD. We had better cameras, better audio, significantly better gear. The technology had improved substantially. My first movie shot in standard definition. I don't think your viewers even know what standard definition is. It's like we were shooting on, they're called videotapes. Huge headache. Anyway, so the origin of Orchard Revolution was that I was doing strategy consulting. And at the time I was sitting in Boston in this meeting with some really sharp people, and we were advising a healthcare company. And during our lunch break, we were talking about America's obesity and diabetes epidemic. And I was saying, people should just plant fruit trees. To me, that seems like an intuitive, obvious long-term solution to a long-term problem. If every street in America were lined with fruit and nut trees, then every person in America would have healthy food for life. And it costs basically nothing to maintain. These trees, they grow on their own. So for me, that idea was just very, very clear in my mind, and these colleagues of mine who were in healthcare consulting, they were like, "What? That's crazy. That's a crazy idea." I was like, "No, this really is what should happen." And so this idea, this seed, it grew from that moment. And then I found doctors and experts and people who were passionate about permaculture. And one person would introduce me to 5 more, and it grew from one person to, I think we had 175 people involved in that production. Wow. Yeah, it's really big.
That's pretty impressive. Yeah. And it's a great message too. It's another one of those positive messages that sounds so simple. Yeah. But when you break it down the way that you say it, but if you were to then say, hey, let's put a program in place that every street in America or every city in America has fruit trees planted. Yeah. I mean, that sounds like such a massive undertaking. But it's more about a community involvement.
Yes.
And that community involvement feeds itself, and it's a healthier lifestyle. Now,
if I could just interject for a second. One of the scenes we captured in the movie was where there was a neighborhood in Portland, Maine, where the neighbors got together on their own. They said, hey, we should be planting fruit trees in their yard. And then the neighbors, one morning, they spent 3 hours. Everyone in the neighborhood bought 3 or 4 trees. They brought out coffees and snacks. They had this little neighborhood festival. It was adorable. And the neighborhood planted, it must have been 50 or 60 trees. It was significant. I'd love to go back there now. I haven't come back. I'd love to go back and see what came out.
Yeah, that's really cool. And now, health and fitness, how does that play into the entrepreneurial business mindset? We hear that a lot, that the mind-body, there's a big connection there.
Yeah.
what's it for you?
Yeah, I think Warren Buffett even talks about this, how the body is, it's your vehicle. And I think, there's a speech by Warren Buffett where he talks about, if I could give you one car for the rest of your life, what car would you buy? And would you take care of that car? And that's a great analogy, is that our body is our vehicle, it's our vessel, our spaceship, or whatever you want to call it, for getting around the planet, the galaxy here. And so health and fitness has always been a solid value of mine. I'm trying to understand where that came from. I guess part of me is I become obsessed with certain metrics. I keep track of my workouts in writing. I've done that for the past decade plus, where I can see every workout I've done for the past decade. And if I slip below for push-ups or pull-ups, then I get mad at myself. I'm like, oh no, I'm dropping here. Or if I start eating unhealthy food, I just I get annoyed by myself. So I wish I could better understand the moment where that came from, or the life event, but I don't have a good answer for that, honestly.
That's okay. Sometimes things are just with us. It's just a value that we hold. Now that's you touch on a point that I think is very interesting that I want to explore a little bit. You are a metrics tracker, in every aspect. And there's that old saying, if it's not measured, what's not measured is not managed, or however that saying goes.
Sure.
But the concept is that you should measure each thing so that you can improve upon it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, absolutely.
And so you take that to, meaning everything. What inspires you to be that way? Is it just the way you're wired, or is it just something that you've created as a habit over the years? And what do you find is the biggest benefit of tracking all these little individual metrics, some of them business related, but many of them not business related or profit related?
Yeah. So, as I reflect on that right now, I think what helped me was reading this book called Super Self by Charles Gibbons. I read this back in 2000 or so. And in that book, he gives clear strategies as far as attaining goals. He's all about putting things in writing. So if your goal is to start a pizzeria, or if your goal is to write a book, whatever, start by writing that goal down, then outline the next 10 steps, then dive into the project management. Okay, so week 1, month 1 or month 6, this is what I need to do. And these are the people I need to bring into my idea. And then through doing that, that's how ideas go from, an idea to coming, how they really come to life. And so that was just really helpful. Putting things in writing is the key thing here. Yeah. And
no, I think that's really awesome, because I find myself in a situation where that's something that I definitely need to do more of, right? Because I'll be driving along and I'll just have this great idea, and I'm like, oh man, I gotta think of that later on. I gotta remember that, and I'll go back to it, and I'm like, oh, what was that idea again? Or I'll have that the skeleton of the idea, but it's just not the same. So
this is the key thing, Ben, is that, and I definitely encourage all entrepreneurs, when you have that great idea, when you're driving your car, you got a great idea, pull the car over, write that idea down in your cell phone right then and there. Because for me, what's been really helpful is to take these ideas, these gems I get while I'm, throughout the day or throughout the month, the year, and then to put them in writing, and then you can review those and distill them and concentrate them into a really even more refined idea. And that's when you get your real gems. You take all the ideas, all the best ideas you had from the past couple of years, and you have in one document, and then you take that document and you cull 90% of it. And then the 10% that's left is genius. It's brilliant. It's beautiful. That's what you got to do. Put it in writing. It's so key.
I love that. Like I said, it's such great advice. Now, that's a great segue to what is next for Byron Corp, from Matthew Byron, the world of the Byron Industries here. What is the next venture? I know you're always looking 10 steps ahead of the rest of the world here. So where are we going? Where are we going on this?
Yeah, I think it goes back to chasing my passions. And right now my passion would be AI, artificial intelligence. I think this is a new wild frontier, very exciting every day. I'm trying to get all the latest intel on that. And then what I've been doing is I've been using image generators and AI, and I'm saying, hey, design me blueprints to a space shuttle, design me the propulsion system to a flying saucer, or design me the frame to the spaceship. I'm asking AI to help us design space shuttles that are economical, ones that you and I can own. And I know this idea sounds crazy, because it is. Honestly, it is a crazy idea. But if you look back at technology, you go back 20, 30 years, the technology we have today is so advanced from where we were 20 or 30 years ago. And AI, for the first time, is giving us this incredible power, all human intelligence, organized in a way where we can interact with it, just typing in words or just speaking to it. It is the first time that we have a very user-friendly way to access the intelligence of the entire planet. And so for that reason, I think that AI may give us these beautiful blueprints to propulsion systems and interstellar travel, and AI may give us new alloys, new energy forms, new fuels we've never thought of before. And so I want to test it, and it might take a month, it might take a year, it might take 5 years, but we're never going to know unless we try. And this is, that's one last thing I do want to say is that a lot of entrepreneurs, when you go out there with your business idea, not every idea is going to be a home run. For entrepreneurs, you have to always swing at it with full energy, And so this idea of creating flying saucers and traveling interstellar, it's a crazy idea. I'm going to give it everything I've got. It might work, it might not, but I'm going to have fun, chase my passion.
Well, you never know. I mean, if you were to ask somebody in the 1950s about putting a man on the moon, that would have been a crazy idea, right?
Crazy idea, yeah.
But if you ask somebody today, like, what do you think about being able to put somebody on the moon?
Of course.
Whatever. No
Exactly.
There's actually space tourism now. There's a whole industry that's sprouting up. So, I think what one person finds to be a crazy, out of this world idea, is another person's genius innovation. So, I love to hear it. I love that that's where you're chasing, that you're in intergalactic travel, while the rest of us mere mortals are here in the terrestrial world. But no, I'm inspired to see where the next year, 5 years, 10 years takes us, and to see what you come up with and where you end up.
Thank you. Thanks.
But with that, Matthew Byron, it's been an absolute pleasure sitting down and talking to us. This has been a lot of fun. We've covered a lot of topics. How can people get in touch with you? What's the way that they can find you? Like I said, I know you're always up to 10,000 different projects. So where can people, if they want to know more about you, they want to see your books or watch your movies, where can they find all that?
My YouTube channel is at mattbyron.com, mattbyron.com. And then for business ventures, my LinkedIn, you can find it at byroncorp.com, byroncorp.com. Yeah. And Ben, thank you so much for having me on your show. Ton of fun. Really an honor to be here. I love being here so much. It's such a pleasure. Thank you.